think that families disintegrating is one of them. We're going to talk about that in a moment with Bill and Linda, because they're going to do something in the next few days that might save your marriage. I believe that they have materials that can help you. And I want to talk about marriage today because Bill and Linda have a special program coming up.
So if people want to be, if they go to McGrane.com and sign up for our free gift about 5 keys to being able to make your marriage better, then they'll get into our emails and then they can get that
webinar
replay available to them.
That's called From Blow Up to Breakthrough. That's all about conflict, because when we did research, the number one thing that people need to know is how to get through conflict. And so that's what the webinar is tonight. So we all need to learn how to go through conflict. So tonight is the webinar. And as Bill said, there are replays of that, which we can send out to you. But the class for you to be able, a 12-week class for you to be able to really join and go through, we have a step-by-step process where we take you by the hand and lead you through a formula, a process that really we've found to be foolproof if you do every step and you actually do the exercises. We help you with that. We help you experience it. And so that 12-week experience is called Marriage Makeover, a blueprint
for a breakthrough,
rebuilding trust, igniting passion, and rekindling joy.
You've got this program set up. I know the program. I've listened to you. I've heard what you teach. I've read your materials. And I'm telling you, it's good material. But if you don't follow it, there's no sense in you tuning in tonight. But if you really want help, if you're not so angry that you don't even want to fix it, then you need to listen to people who have gone through similar issues and understand the reason why that we have teaching. And so when we talk about having programs, it's one thing to go and listen to them and sit in a class and listen to things that may help us. Another thing to put them to work. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to act it out.
Well, you know, that's the thing about our work, is that knowledge without application means nothing. You have to apply what you're learning. And my dad had a great statement. He said, if you don't act upon an idea within 24 hours, there's a 90% chance you're never going to use that idea. So one of the things that I've learned to do is you get a concept, you get one idea, and every class that we do, we give people many tools, but we have them pick one tool and work on that for a week, because oftentimes people get overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
Their priorities are out of alignment. You know, their alignment, well, that's one of the first things we look at, is where's your priorities? And oftentimes it's their children, it's their job, it's other activities instead of God, themselves, mm-hmm. their spouse, their children, and then everything else.
Let me ask you some questions. This may help this become a little more palatable. A classic example of self-indulgence often involves prioritizing one's own desires without even thinking about the needs, considering the potential impact of your life on the others or your own well-being. Now, tell me that have you ever had to deal with issues like that people are consumed by TV or habit?
Well, you know, if you're operating out of your needs and your wants instead of your values,
right?
That's a great statement.
That's where the destruction starts to happen. And because most people haven't had their needs and wants met in a healthy way, they start looking for anything. And as a result of that, the consequence is they make choices that they regret later. And usually pain is what motivates people, unfortunately. We like to be in the prevention business. Unfortunately, most people are in crisis mode.
Yeah.
And then it's oftentimes, it's never too late. You know, one of the things I think is important, that people have to have hope and realize, knowing that there's a way through, and there's a heavenly hope, and then there's an openness to a new possibility, you know. I always call it your flappers. Are your flappers open, somewhat down, or closed? Well, most as kids, we're free and open, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we have experiences in life. We've been abused, or someone took advantage of us, or a lack of love, or a rejection, and so all of a sudden we're not open. And then all of a sudden you have enough of those, and most people, they have enough of them. But where do you go? What school do you go to get the knowledge so that you can get unstuck from being stuck? Now, the Lord is the divine plan, right? And obviously what we focus on is a biblical perspective when we're doing our trainings. But at the same time, people need to know what's a practical step to deal with this. And the first thing to take a look at is, how can I stop being focused just on my agenda? So
Watch this. Linda, now it's time for you to answer this. Is he living by what he's talking about?
Yes, he
Now,
is.
see, that's
Most
the
of
important
time,
thing.
He truly is.
It
yes.
says, know them that labor among you in the Lord, because they're worthy of double honor. I know these guys. I've spent time with them. I've spent time just go to their house to drink coffee. And you need to understand, I'm representing, I put my reputation on the line with these guys. They're both beautiful people, and the great thing about it is Bill had a legacy. His father passed this on to him, and so he has the wisdom of his father plus the things that Linda's taught him. Amen. And so, but what about marriages that are in trouble because temporary gratification?
Well, I think we actually have had clients. It's like you say, it's getting worse and worse. We've actually
You brought one to me. I remember
yes, I did. Yeah. And we've had clients that it's so severe that they can't even see how come they need to change their behavior. We just wanted them to change their behavior a little bit to be able to stay married, stay in connection with their husband, and they literally have said,
their children.
Well, and their children, and they have new babies. And they instead are getting their husbands in line by yelling, screaming, attacking, name calling, putting them down. And what's happening is all that energy is going into the baby, but it's also going into them. It's the immediate gratification is almost the addiction, because there's so much pain. There's pain in the soul. It's like a hole in the soul that they're desperate to fill. And they're desperate to fill it moment by moment by moment. And so they'll do whatever it takes for that one little thing that for a second makes them feel better so that they can move forward or move on. Well, and that's the thing, it's carried from generation to generation. And so it's really continuing to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And there are no models. I mean, not to say there are none, because of course there are families that are doing amazing things. You, Mike, your family are doing amazing things. Your family, Pastor, and their families throughout our church that are doing amazing things. But in a general way, because of the self-gratification, it just gets worse and worse. Because, see, it opens the door, as you were saying, it opens the door to the enemy, and then the enemy comes in, and he is after marriages, especially now, because this is his covenant.
That's
and
right.
It's the smallest unit of covenant. And this is what's important. And so he's coming in to divide and to make you feel unimportant, to make you feel ignored and kind of, in a sense, dismembered and disconnected, so that the wife has no head. As soon as the wife has no head, he can take her off. That's easy. Right. Then the kids go. Yeah, and then the husband goes into other things, and then he's an easy target. And that's what's happening throughout our families right now. And because it goes from generation to generation, these children that are now coming to us that have been in these families, we have some couples right now, actually, that we are now dealing with the children of those that we fixed their marriages. And it was helpful, but they still don't have a model. They literally have no concept of what to do. And so that's what we try to do, is to not only teach them, but to make them experience it so that they get the feeling of the change. Because if they can get a feeling of change, then it's like, oh, okay, I can do it. Now I know what it feels like.
I want to ask you a question. What does this mean? What does this mean to you? Love your wives. What does it mean to you?
Well, that's a whole level of understanding that all of us are going to be doing for the rest of our lives.
That's
because
right.
when you take time to find out who she really is, what does she need? What does she want? What does she value? Most women want to feel safe.
But that's because they lost a security need in the Garden of Eden.
Absolutely.
And they never got it back.
Never got it back.
You know, my answer as a pastor, what does love mean? Love your wives as Christ loved the church.
That's right.
But what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what the Bible's talking about throughout every aspect of it, is finding out how to be able to do that in a way that makes that connection. You know, for me with Linda, it's easy to love her most of the time. As it is easy for her to love me most of the time.
Boy, you're getting kind of grumpy there, right?
The most of the time.
Well, for me, what I see him do when he's loving me is that really right on your target of self-indulgence. He gives himself up in little tiny things all the time. If I'm struggling, he comes underneath me, which means he's giving up what he had planned.
But you went through a great physical issue. And
Yes.
Bill was out there championing your cause.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I'll never forget that as long as I live. And the providence, how God brought you into the neighbor's life and
Right.
how he was willing to unselfishly.
Right, and give
That's not
himself.
self-indulgence.
Yeah, giving a kidney is definitely giving yourself away,
Yes.
committing, because he
Yeah.
could have risks himself.
Right.
Yes, but yes, that's absolutely
He
true.
gave himself
He
for it.
gave
Jesus
himself.
gave himself for the church, for the bride.
Yes, and Bill did that in that.
He did.
In that experience that we went through for 6 or 7 years. That's definitely true. But he continues that even in little things. Even in little things, if he sees that I really want something, he'll give that up so I can have it, or he'll come underneath me and stop. I know that wherever he is, that if I needed him, he'd be there. And so it's in little things, giving up what he wants, even as little as, well, I really wanted this for dinner, but if you want that, you can have it. So it's a constant.
It is a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle.
It's being others-centered instead of self-centered.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you're living in alignment with the direction the Lord wants you to give, it becomes easier to surrender.
That's what joy is.
Absolutely.
Jesus first, others second, you last.
Right.
And then it becomes, there's psychic income and there's real income and there's relationship income. And the joy of seeing my wife be happy when she wasn't happy for so many years, and the pain that she went through physically, mentally,
I can't
emotionally, spiritually, my heart just went out and said, what can I do to give her love and cherish her? And so that's a commitment that you make. But again, I got to be in a good place. You can't give what you don't have. And if you don't take care of you.
And it'd be better if you would do premarital counseling.
Well, we do that too. We have lots of people. In fact, we have a couple that we just recently, a guy came through courses many years ago, and he's got a son who's getting engaged, and he said, do you have a program that you can have him be a part of? And so he'll be a part of this next class that we're doing. But the thing about, to make this very practical for people, is ask yourself this question. Have you noticed that when you focus on other people, when you do something as a gift to someone else, it's easier to do that, and you feel more joy from that than when you receive something. So find a way every day to give yourself a gift by giving something to somebody else. And so each day you come into contact with people, a spouse, a child, somebody at work. Most people are hurting because they haven't been loved, cherished, and honored.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful, because everything starts with a thought, and some of them are unconscious. So then when they come to the conscious mind, you have to take your thought captive.
Amen.
And when you do that, then the thought can't go anywhere. But if you allow the thought, then the thought creates the feelings, and the feelings create the action. And it's those feelings that become so intense, especially if you begin thinking about it over and over. They become so intense that pretty soon the body just responds. So what are we going to do in the class?
So in the class, we're going to show people a blueprint to be able to turn all this around that we're talking about. Because it starts with a step. It starts with a decision to say, enough is enough. I don't like what's going on. I just need the tool chest. And then if you take that tool chest and then you apply those ideas, then it's going to happen. So this is a 90-day class. It's 12 weeks, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. People from really all over the world will be a part of this. We have people from different countries who are already wanting to be a part of this. We deal with a lot of the cultural differences.
Oh, yeah, that's horrible.
Where they treat the woman like a second-class citizen. Most people want to make it work. They just don't know how to make it work. And so it doesn't matter whether you're young, old, been married, divorced, whatever the circumstance is, you have an opportunity to create a fresh start every day. It's just like what you said. And when you make a decision to make a decision, and you're no longer going to stay stuck in what the circumstances are in your life, that you know that God has a divine plan for your life, not just a circumstantial plan for your life. Then you have hope. Then you see faith. Then you see possibilities. Then you see, and you apply some of these principles, and my goodness, they really work. And if they work for us, they can work for anybody.
Ask God to help you to be able to read the mirror of your wife's eyes and her expressions.
Well, women do that all the time to their men because they're scanning to see what's coming up next. So that's a natural thing for women to do.
The thing is that
that
none
good
of us were
statement?
taught these things. We were all taught destructive behavior from, our growing up, our parents, our teachers,
Right.
etc. And so it's not difficult, and we give you the exact things to be able to do. It's just changing it a little bit makes all the difference from hate to love. And knowing exactly what to say and do is really the whole thing if you're willing to do it. If you're not willing to do it, then it isn't worth it, as you said. Then don't even turn this off. Don't even look at it. But if you are willing to do it, we give you the tools so that you actually know the words, because sometimes people don't even have the vocabulary. But we actually give you vocabulary as well. So it's not something that is shameful that people don't know how. I don't think any of us knew how. I certainly didn't. You didn't. We all have issues with being able to communicate at a level that really communicates.
Well, oftentimes that, men want to be respected and women want to be loved, cherished, and honored, and they oftentimes don't compliment each other that way. And when you do that, it changes everything. It's really a simple thing to do. We just make it more complicated than it needs to be.